Hi there, it's Jan from JB Crafts, and I'm back today with another project in my Halloween series for October this year. So I've kept it quite simple today. We're going to do a little bit of construction and a little bit of colouring, and I have left the colouring in today so that you can see, how I actually go about it. So these are actually like little gift pockets, and I'll show you the products as we go along, as always. And they've just got some little inexpensive chocolate treats in here that I've bought in one of my local supermarkets, and I thought these would be great for little giveaways if you have trick-or-treaters coming, or if you want to do gifts for children or grandchildren. They're perfect. You can use any stamped element. I show you the stamps that I've used, but anything on here. Literally just a little bit of ribbon and twine, bit of decoration, and as I say, really simple to make. Now I haven't attached this permanently. It is actually like almost like a tag, so that you can actually get in the pocket, and I'll show you how I've done that when we come to create it. And I did get a little bit carried away because my stamp set had several images on, and I'll show you the paper pad. This was one of the designs with the purple, which what led to the purple hat. Then I thought, right, we'll have a go with some of the orange papers, and we went with the little pumpkin pattern here. So again, just mixing some of those typical Halloween colours with the purple, the oranges, the greens, and then the black as an accent. And then I couldn't really resist this little guy. So this one's all ghosties on here. I didn't have a really cute ghosty stamp, so I've gone for I just think he's absolutely amazing, the little mummy rabbit there. And again, picked out, the oranges, the greens. So I've got 3 of these now already. I'm going to recreate the first one, the purple one, with the purple paper and the hat on there. But like I said, any stamp, and it's a great one for batch making as well, because once you've got your stamps lined up, I stamped all my greetings, then I went in and stamped the actual images, and then went in and did the colouring. It is a little bit of alcohol marker colouring, but again, as I say, not a lot. So we'll pop those to one side. That's the one that we're going to recreate this morning, and I'm going to start out with the stamping and the colouring. So I'm going to bring in my stamping tool. I've got my mister here, and I want an alcohol friendly ink. So I've actually got my Spectrum Noir alcohol proof dye ink here. I do prefer the grey one as opposed to the black. I don't know why. It's something that I've got used to using. If you've got black, absolutely fine, but just make sure that if you are going to be using alcohol markers, you want a dye based ink so that the two play nicely together. And then I've actually stamped out because I'd got this all ready and it was all positioned, I've stamped out my greeting on there at the ready. So we're just going to add our little witch's hat here. Now I have actually popped a line across the bottom, and I've measured that about 5/8 of an inch up from the bottom of the card. I don't know whether you can just pick the pencil line up there. And that's where we're going to add this piece of washi tape. When I first stamped it, she just looked as if she was floating around in the air. Even though I'd grounded it, I wasn't happy with it. I wanted that little bit of something extra to tone in with the black and white element. So I'm going to add that after I've stamped it, because I don't want to stamp over the actual washi tape. So I've just put that line in there so that I know whereabouts it's going to go. Now my stamp set is from Crafter's Companion. And this was a collection that they released last year before I left the company, called All Hallows Eve. It's the Boo to You clear acrylic stamp set, and there are some really nice images in here. You can see there. This is the one that I'm going to use today, so we'll take that one out. You can see I've got that little mummy rabbit. I just think he's absolutely gorgeous. We've got the pumpkin was from a different set, and then there's also the gorgeous little ghosty with the big mouse ears there. So again, this is where the sentiment was from. In fact, while I've got that out, I'll pop that back in there because I've stamped my sentiment out. So all we're going to do is pop this on here where we want it, and I'm going to position it so that it's sort of just about sat on that little pencil line that I drew here, and with a decent gap, at the edge and the top here. So I think that's probably around about good. I'm happy with that there. Pick that up with the lid on my Misty, and then we're going to apply some of that grey dye based ink there. ready to receive the alcohol markers. I am stamping on Neenah cardstock, which is an alcohol friendly cardstock. It's the one that I always go to when I'm doing my alcohol colouring. And again, just going to give that an extra layer of ink just because I can. That's the beauty of having your stamping tool there, and literally pop that straight over the top, give it a good press and let that ink transfer. And then I am just going to use my very, very grubby cloth, and I usually just give it a wipe over, and that's my stamping all sorted. So we can take this out of here. We'll sort the stamp out later. And then we've got this good to go with our alcohol inks. So I do need a little bit of scrap card that I am going to rest on just in case any of the ink bleeds through. So I've got a little bit of scrap there. And I've just kept a fairly simple colour palette with these. I want purple for the actual hat. So I've got my tri-blend markers. These are my go-to alcohol markers, and I've got the purple blend there. That seemed an obvious choice. I wanted to add some green in, so I've gone for quite a sort of limey green. This is Alpine green. We're going to use that on her stockings. And then I have, rather than black, I tend to go with a dark grey for my black. I just find once you've gone to black, there's not a lot of shading you can do after that. So I tend to use the dark greys here. And this is an ice grey blend, but it's the darker tones. So I'm starting at IG6 for any of you that know that particular range of markers. And then just a tiny, tiny little bit of orange for the buckles. And this one happens to be a brush marker because I don't have the burnt orange in one of the tri-blend markers. So it's exactly the same. It's just these have a bullet nib and the grey ones have a brush nib. So absolutely fine. So that's going to be my colour palette. That's all we're going to do on there. And I am actually going to start with the hat because that's the bit that takes most of the colour. So I'm going to leave the colouring in real time today. If you don't want to watch that, you can always fast forward through the video. But just, I know one or two of you have said that they would like to see some of the colouring in video. So here we go. So I'm actually going to start with my darkest shade at the end. And I'm going to think about where I want the dark bits to be. So I'm going to go round the edge of the hat here. And I'm going to pop in sort of a dark shadow as if the light's coming from this side. The band would also create a little bit of shadow there. So just get that marker in. I'm going to put a little tiny bit in the bottom there. And then we're going to go to our mid-tone. So I'm going to take that round, flip it, and I've got the mid-tone there. And all I'm going to do is now come down the edge of that line here just to blend all the way round, just nudging that edge. And then I'm going to bring this one quite a bit further in. I want the bulk of the hat to be in that mid-tone of the purple there. So the bulk of it right across here. And then just leave a little bit that I want to highlight at the end for that sort of light coming in at this direction. Then we can go to that light shade, and I'm going to go right up to the edge here. And I'm only touching the edge of my alcohol colouring. I'm not going right over here because this will bleach out the colour that I've already sat down. But again, just popping this in so we've got that light area. And the one biggest tip I can give you with alcohol marker colouring is don't judge it at this stage. You know, you need the alcohol to evaporate and you will get a much, much smoother blend. So I'm actually going to go back and take my dark shade again here, and we're going to come around the base of the hat this time. So I usually turn my artwork that's comfortable with my hand, and again that little belt and buckle there is going to create some shadow underneath it. If you imagine that that's sat a little bit further forward, it's going to create a bit of depth underneath there. So I'm just bringing that dark tone out. I'm also going to pop it around this base edge just to outline and define that space. So again, just around that edge there. And then the bulk of it again, I want to be in that mid-tone. So we're going to bring the mid-tone in and we're going to extend what we've already put down, but I am going to leave a couple of little bits of sort of highlighted area. And you can see easily where you want these to go when you get to this point. So again, just nudging that dark outline. And leaving that little bit there that we're going to fill in then with the lightest blend. So again, pop this in the middle. Just take it to the edges of that mid-tone just so that it all sort of blends together. And we're going to leave that one for that alcohol to evaporate. Now I am going to come back up to the top because I want to darken these edges here. So again, I'm just going to work my way, little feathered strokes here up that edge with the dark one. And across that bottom edge there. And then I'm going to repeat that process. I'm going to take my mid-tone and I am just going to pop where I'd gone before. And this is the secret with alcohol. It's sort of building up those layers and making that depth of colour that you want with them. And then again, we'll bring that light one back and just finish off that last little bit here. And then leave it again for that alcohol to evaporate. You can see the blend is actually a bit better this time because what underneath had dried. And then I'm going to do the same again just round this part here. So again, I'm just going to bring that darker layer. Really want to define those shadows where those dark elements sit. And again, just round the base there. Really emphasize that that is my darkest area. Bring that mid-tone back in. Extend. Just like I did last time. I'm not going anywhere else other than it's almost repeating what I've done already. Leaving that little highlighted area so that we can add our lighter colour in. And then just nudge those edges to fill. And it will always dry slightly lighter than what you see. You can see this is lightening up already compared to what I've just done. Then we're going to do exactly the same with her boots. So I'm going to come round the top here with a bit of the dark and down this inside edge, a little bit round the base of the boot here. And I am only working on them one at a time. You know, the sort of temptation is to do all the dark bits and then come back to the medium. But in doing that, this one's had too long to dry. And you'll struggle to get a decent blend with it if it's started drying. So again, I'm just going to leave that little bit of highlight there so that we can pop our light tone in. And then leave that to dry while we work on that last boot. Pretty much the same there. Down that backside edge there. Across the base of the boot. A little bit in that bit there. And again, mid-tone. Just to blend that out. Leaving that area that I want to leave for the light tone. And then just nudging that last bit into there. Now then, I'm quite happy with those. I'm just going to little tiny bit of the dark down this back line of the boot there, so that we can see that real definition just under the buckle there. And it's knowing when to step away at this point. Just blend that edge in, last little bit there. And I'm going to leave those to dry, see what they look like. So then we're going to bring in the grey. So this is the grey one. I'm going to start again with my dark shade. And I want the edges here to have that little dark element in. I'm going to do a little bit inside the buckle. And again, here, as if that light's coming in from this side. Then flick to my mid-tone. So this is my dark grey blend. Again, leaving a little bit left to add that lighter element in with the light shade. And then we'll leave that one for that alcohol to evaporate. See where we want to go. Again, I'm just going to define that darkest area there, just so that we get a nice definition, and then see what it looks like when that's dried out. The green, again, I'm just going to take a little tiny bit of the dark, tiniest little bit down that far side there, and then I'm going to go to my mid-tone, blend that into it. And because these are only small areas, I can get away with just doing this part once, and then that lightest bit just in the edge there, flick it back into the mid-tone. And it does look a little bit stripy when you first do it, but as I say, bear with it. The beauty of it is letting that alcohol dry. Now I'm just going to bring in my lighter shades of the ice grey. So this is the earliest shades. We've actually got the blend here with 2, 4 and 5, and then this one is 6, 8 and 9. So these all work nicely together. I just want the slightest little bit here. I'm going to use the mid-tone. Rather than just leave it white, I'm just going to pop the slightest little bit of grey just to create the element of shadow there at that side. And it is only a little tiny bit. You can just see here, that little tiny bit of grey just suggests that they're not flat. You've got a bit of shape in there. And then finally, I'm going to go in with the orange one here, and I want to add that just around the buckle. And again, there's some little tiny buckles on the shoes there as well. And I want to add a slight darker bit towards the bottom of the buckle, possibly even the very darkest one at the bottom there. Okay, and that's pretty much my colouring done. I'm quite happy with that. Now I had got a little bit heavy-handed with the orange here, and I can just see, I don't know whether you guys can pick up where it's just seeped out of the edge. Now quick fix for that, if you have one, is to use your white gel pen. You can push the ink back with a blender pen, but sometimes it's just as quick when it's a little sort of whoops like this, to basically just take your white gel pen and pop it over the top there, and it'll hide any little mistakes that you made. So that's my piece done there. Quite happy with that. So we'll get rid of the paper, but the reason that I put this down, as you can see, this is typical of alcohol markers. The more you saturate the card, the more it will bleed through. And if you've got this on a hard surface here, the only place for the ink to go is back through your paper, and that's often when you get that bleeding outside the lines, purely because there's too much ink for the line art to sort of hold on to. So that's why I always, it's almost like using blotting paper when you used to use ink. People would have a blotter underneath it for the same reason. So we can get rid of that piece now, that's done its job. And then I'm going to add the piece of washi across here. So I've just got the one that's got some little arrows on. I've been in my huge washi stash, and we're going to pop a little bit of that across. But I am just going to, because I want this to stay put, washi is very low tack tape. It's great for lots of different uses. But if I'm putting it on a card permanently, I normally add a little bit of glue under there as well. And then I'm going to line this up with my pencil line. And it will look then as if those little boots are stood on there. Okay, and then turn it over. Add a little bit on the back here, because this is going to be secured onto a matte layer anyway, and just fold those around the back out of the way. It means that you don't have a raw edge. If you tear it level with the edge, you've got a raw edge and a risk of it lifting. And then I still thought it needed a little bit of something else. It still looked a little bit odd, I felt, round the feet. So I brought in a very pale blue marker and my blender pen. And all I'm going to do is just add a little hint And again, it's almost scribbling in the gap here, no skill required. And that's all I'm going to do. But because I don't want the hard edge on that, if I take my blender pen now and just nudge into this, try not to catch what you've already done in your colouring because it will bleach that out. But this will just fade that edge and soften it that little bit. And you can see now that we've got our design piece made there. Okay, and then I've created another mat layer for it. So this whole piece measures 4 by 4 inches. Forgot to mention that the bag is 4 1/4 inches square when it's finished. So my black card is 4 by 4. I cut the Neenah cardstock down to 3 7/8. I just wanted a tiny little border behind there, and I'm literally going to pop this together now with my my glue. So I'm going to use my all-purpose glue because I'm just sticking cardstock to cardstock. You know that this is my favourite choice of glue. Get that opened up, and I'm just going to put some round the edge here, over the washi, and we'll get this stuck in place and let that dry while we make the actual bag. So I'm going to pop this on here. This is the beauty of having a wet glue, because I can now just wriggle that into place so that I've got a nice even black border all the way around it. So that's going to be my topper. We're going to pop a hole and an eyelet in here when it's dry, but I am just going to leave that with my block over it for the time being so that that dries nice and flat, and then we'll actually come into making the bag itself. So I've got my piece of cardstock at the ready, and again, I know there were some questions about seeing score lines when I'm working on my camera, and this one obviously it's a very busy paper, so again I've made the template so that we've got something to follow. So you're going to need a piece of cardstock that measures 9 inches across and 6 inches deep, and then we're going to put certain lines in here. So some of them are we're going to score it all, but then where I've added the blue lines, we're actually going to cut some sections away here. So I've got my piece of pattern paper. If it has an orientation to it like mine has, then you want to make sure that your widest section is at the top here and this little 1/2 inch section is at the bottom. So I'll leave this in place so that we can see this. I'm going to bring my scoreboard in here, and what I want to do is I want to score a 1/2 inch and 4 3/4. So this line is 1/2 inch and this line is 4 3/4. So I've got my paper the right way up, and I'm going to do the 1/2 inch score line first down this left hand side here from top to bottom, and then I'm also going to score at 4 3/4 top to bottom. So we've now got those 2 vertical score lines in here. And then I'm going to rotate to the right. So I'm going to turn my paper this way so that the right way is facing to the right. And these score lines are exactly the same. They're a 1/2 inch and 4 3/4. So just like we've just done, but we're going to go down that long edge this time. So 1/2 inch for this one, and then 4 3/4 inches for that right hand side. And that's all the scoring we need to do. So I'll just show you that template again, and if you want to take a photo of that, you can do. So we did a 1/2 inch in from the left hand side and at 4 3/4 inches, and then we turned it this way and we did a 1/2 inch on that left hand side, this being the bottom of your paper if it's got an orientation, and 4 3/4 here. So I'm just going to leave that for you if you want to take a quick screenshot of that so that you've got it as a reference point. And I've said this many times when I've been doing this, if you are making something like this and there's a chance you want to do it again, you know, these could be little Christmas pouches, birthday pouches, Mother's Day, Valentine, absolutely any occasion, make the template. I have a whole folder that has got template designs in, and that way you don't have to work out all the measurements next time you do it. So we're going to crease and score those lines that we've just made. So I'm going to start with the little skinny edge here, and I always use the bulk of my paper to fold onto that score line. I find it easier that way, and then burnish those in place with your burnishing tool. Then I'm going to do the same with that middle one, and this, you should find now that this actually closes and everything should line up perfectly when we score this one into place. Give that a burnish, and you've got your 4 3/4 inches across here. We're going to do the same on the long fold. So again, take the bulk of your paper and fold it up against that little skinny 1/2 inch line and give it a burnish. And then we're going to do the same, and I'm going to fold this top one in towards itself just the same. These are all mounting folds, and give it a burnish. So everything is folded, it's all burnished, and we've got it all in place. So this is actually going to be our glue tab. This one's going to come across here. We've got a glue tab at the bottom, and then we're going to fold this one over to make our little pouch. So we have a little bit of cutting to do. This still looks like my template here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take away this little skinny rectangle in the top here and the whole of this section up to that middle score line. So let's do that first. So I'm literally going to do this in one go, and I can actually see my score lines better on the reverse where I've folded it, and I'm cutting the score line away. So you want a nice neat cut line all the way along here until you get to that middle score line. So I've taken away the little 1/2 inch glue tab that we had here and that whole panel, and again I'm going to take away that score line. I can just see my score lines there and snip that away. So we've now got this piece cut away here. We're going to save this. This is going to be our fold over, our little flap. Okay, and then I'm going to do a little bit to the bottom. So we need to lose the little tiny, you should have a little square where those 2 1/2 inch lines have crossed, and we're actually going to take that out of the equation, again cutting away those score lines so that you get a nice neat fold. So you can see now we're coming along nicely here. And then the last one is going to be this long skinny section at this side. So this is the side that you've got your piece here that's going to be the closure. We're also going to cut away that skinny piece off the bottom, and again I am cutting away all of the score line just so that you get a nice neat fold when it's finished. Okay, so that's that bit gone. So this is scrap now, I can get rid of that, and if I lay this back over my template you can see that we've got that piece at the ready. So my pattern's facing up. This is going to be the top edge of the bag, this is going to be the closure for the bottom, closure for the side, and it will go like so. And then this piece is going to fold over the top to make your little 4 3/4 inch pouch. So just before we stick that together, I actually want to round the corners at the top here on my closure. So I've just got my corner punch at the ready, and take off those corners just to make it look a little bit neater. And while I've got my punch out, you can take the little wedges off the tabs here, but just while I've got my punch out I figured I may as well just round those corners just the same on the glue tabs. I did it all in one go. If you don't like the idea of the corner punch, as I say, just take those little wedges out with your scissors like we often do when we're making construction projects. Just want to get that one in to get that corner off, and the same at that side. So we've got all those done. We can get rid of those little scraps, and this one's good to go now. So this is what we've got. Okay, so I'm going to take my acrylic glue this time, purely because it dries quicker than the all-purpose glue. What I want to do is I want to fold these tabs in, and again, little top tip here, I'm going to pop the side in first and then the bottom, and pop a little bit of glue in this corner, purely because if I put the bottom in first and then the side, whatever you put inside I find tends to hit that bottom piece and sometimes gets stuck. So all I'm going to do is put a little tiny bit of glue here, just first of all in that corner, bring that over and put the bottom over the side so that we've got that good to go. And then this should all line up when we fold this one over the top. So then those little 1/2 inch glue tabs want glue all the way round that we created. And then we're literally just going to fold this back onto itself, and it should all line up nice and neat with those edges that we've already prepared. So give that a second to grab. And we've got our little pouch at the ready now. So simple to make. Once you've got the idea of that template and how it works, this will fold over and we're actually good to go. And the reason I cut the score lines away was because we need that piece to fold over the top of that one. If you leave part of the score line, you find that this is not closing properly. It's because you've not quite taken enough off this top edge here where we cut this rectangular section off, but you want it to close nicely like so. Okay, so this one should be nice and dry now. We're going to work with them both now because I actually want to punch a hole through what will be my topper and straight through the bag as well here. So I'm going to use my Crop-A-Dile, bring that into play. Now then, I've managed to get what looks like a little bit of glue on the corner of there. I don't know, it might be on my block. So I'm just going to take my adhesive eraser there and just tidy that bit up. If ever you get glue on something, these are a godsend. They're readily available. Mine was from Amazon. And let the glue dry. Don't try and do it while it's wet. And you can see it's just disappeared nicely. Job done. So what I've done is I've taken my ruler again. It's evading me now. It's decided to hide. Where have you gone? I'll use the big one. And I've gone the 4 inches across, and I've just measured it about 1/4 inch down at 2 inches so that I know roughly where the centre is to punch my hole. And then I'm going to line this up over the pouch. I've got my little flap underneath here, and this should be a little bit bigger than your topper. This was 4 inches, this was 4 1/4 inches. So once you've got that in place, I'm just going to hold it where I want it to go. Just look at, I'm just eyeballing that I've got around about the same distance all the way around the outside. Hold it in place, and then my Crop-A-Dile will go through all these layers together. So I'm just going to line up that little hole in the center and give it a good squeeze. And we've got that hole. I know that these are going to be lined up together now. So for some reason, mine does not like letting go of the waste piece there. We'll get rid of those. And then I wanted to put an eyelet in here. And some of my bigger ones that I have are all shades of metallics. So I've got silver, I've got gold, I've got bronze. So all I did was take the alcohol marker that I'd been using earlier, and I've just coloured mine in with the alcohol marker. This was a silver one. You can see underneath there it was silver. So yeah, if you're wanting to add some colour, your alcohol markers work great on the metal embellishments. Now I'm not going to fasten the eyelet all the way through here because the idea is that you can take this element off to open it. So I'm just going to put the eyelet through the topper piece here and then secure that with my Crop-A-Dile again. So that one just goes in like so. Give it a squeeze and it just sorts the eyelet out on the back there. And then this one's good to go on the front now. So just before that, I'm going to put my little sweets in, and I've chose 2 of the purple ones because we were working with purple, and then we've got some of the little witches there, which went with the witch's hat. So all I'm going to do is pop those inside, and those are good to go there. So as I say, you've got these cute little pouches that you can, if you've got these ready made to hand out on Halloween, they're absolutely great. So then we can actually fasten it together. So I'm going to line up the holes that I made, and I've actually got some black and white gingham ribbon, which I thought went really nicely with the design, and I am going to pop that through the gap there. And you know, you can stop at this point and just tie a bow in your ribbon if you wish, or a knot in your ribbon, whatever. But I just wanted to add a little bit more detail here. So I'm going to use my tweezers to hold that in place, like so. And then I'm going to add some twine as well. So we'll go, I had orange on the last one. I think we'll stick with the orange. I've got twine in all sorts of colours. And I want sort of a double layer there. We're going to tie a double bow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this around my ribbon to secure the ribbon in place. So this is all decorative. It will all come apart so that when you open the bag, this will all undo. And I'm just going to tie that around the ribbon to make a little feature of that. And then once we've got that in place, we can tie our little bow there with the double. So we're going to get a double bow. And then once you've got that in place, we can, now then I just need to snip that edge open there so that I've got the right one. But yeah, once you've got that in place, you can then sort of tweak it as to how big you want that bow. And then pull it tight. Do you know, bows on camera are always the fiddliest things to do, I find. I admire people that can just tie a bow. That hasn't worked at all, Jan. I get myself in a right old state when I'm doing these on camera. So let's just try that again. See, I was worrying about it before I even started, I think. So yeah, one. Round we go. Pull that one through. And you want it to be nice and tight. That was much better. I think I was worrying about it before I even started. And then I'm just going to tweak those little loops until I'm happy with them. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then we can snip those edges to the length that you want them. Like so. And then all I'm going to do is take my scissors and just tidy up the ends of the ribbon there, and I think we're just about good to go. So you can see there we've got our little pouch. Once you undo the ribbon, all this takes away and it just leaves the pouch with the little treats in. If you were making these for children or grandchildren, you could actually personalize these with a little name on the back if you want to, or there is room to write a message on the back of that little tag because it's left separate. And the last little bit, I felt as if it needed a little bit of extra decoration just on that corner. So was it going to be gems? At first I thought I'm not going to put gems on it, and I know I've just said that out loud, I have gems on everything, but I thought, right, we'll try something a little bit different. And I've got a whole tub of buttons here which have got that lovely burnt orange colour in. So I chose a couple of buttons the size that I wanted, and then I've actually put a black gem inside just to make them look like, they almost look like googly eyes. So I've got some red line tape on the back of here. So we'll just release that carrier off there. And we can stick these in place. So I'm going to put, oops, come away. I'm going to put this one on here, just to offset that design and that rule of, you know, sort of threes here. We've got that triangle taking place. Now the little one is going to be the most challenging because it is a very tiny button, and I've just put little tiny pieces of red line tape on there, and again this is going to go on the edge there, just in that vertical pattern. So we've just tied the orange in with the buckle. I've got the green eyelet to tie it in with the stockings, and then the main part is purple to match the paper. You can see how that blending has all softened out now. The alcohol's evaporated from it and just left the colour in there. And then I couldn't resist. I went back and I'm thinking, no, you know me, it's got to have the little gems on. So I've just added 2 or 3 gems there. And whatever happened to my what happened to my gel pen? There it is. If you want to add the highlights like I've done on this one, I've just gone in those lighter areas and just added a little bit of the white gel pen there. And again, in this part here, just to emphasize that highlight, just as a little finishing touch there. So you can see they're virtually the same, but I did actually bring out the little gems. I couldn't help myself. You know what I'm like as far as we're concerned. So again, if I bring those 3 different designs in, and the papers, I only came across these the other day. I was in one of our local craft stores here in the, well, it's a multi-store called The Range, but they do have a big craft section in the one where I live, and came across this. And for £4, €5.20, you've got a 12 by 12 paper pad with 24 sheets, 2 of each design, and I just loved the colour palette on here. You know, you've got some real nice bright ones. I love this one. I want to do something with this one. You've got the pumpkins on there. This is terrific, and just imagine that multicolours on a project. The little ghosties, the pumpkins, the broomsticks. This was the orange one that I used for my designs. Got the skulls there. That was the ghostie that we used. The little spiders that look like pom-poms, I just think they're very cute. This was the purple one that I used. And then you've got the jack-o'-lantern faces there at the beginning. So yeah, for £3.99, you know that I have a bit of an addiction to papers. It's called Haunted Hallows. And my husband goes mad. He's like, you do not need any more paper, Jan. Paper and gems are my thing. And I don't apologise. It works. Excuse me, every time. I can't walk past them without picking them up. I picked a Christmas one up as well, which I'll show you later on, that we're going to use for Christmas. Same price, same idea, with some Christmas designs in. So yeah, that was the paper pad. So I hope you've enjoyed that today. I hope you have a go at making some of these. And as I say, there's a lot of room here to do these for Christmas projects. I think I might revisit it at Christmas. I might look at the size of them. You could do them for Mother's Day, Father's Day. You could do them for birthdays. You could do them for Valentine's Day. Once you've got that template there, you can come back to this time and time again and not have to worry about working out what the measurements were or finding the video if you've watched this one and you wanted to go back to it. So yeah, if you've enjoyed that today, give it a thumbs up for me. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would love to have you, and a massive thank you to all of you that have subscribed and that are enjoying the tutorials. I will keep them coming. I've got lots of Halloween ideas to come throughout the rest of October, and I will be back very soon with my next tutorial. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye now.